Welcome to the Writing in Your Jammies podcast. I'm your host, Jeannie Hall, and I'm a creative inspiration coach who helps writers reignite their creative sparks. This podcast is here to help you knock down any barriers that stand between you and your dreams. You can do it. Join me. Hello, and welcome to the Writing in Your Jammies podcast. I'm Jeannie Hall, your host, and this is podcast 23, Timing and How It's Perfect. Today I'm going to talk about perfect timing. And those of you who listen to this podcast on the regular know that I'm a strong believer in spirituality and the law of attraction. It's changed my life for the better in so many ways, and so I'm a big proponent of those teachings. And because of my beliefs, I believe our thoughts and our feelings create our reality. And the reality we are dealing with right now is actually just the result of how we used to think. So if you are unhappy and don't like something about your current reality, all you have to do to change what's happening in your life or in any one aspect of your life is to become aware of what your thoughts are and purposely and consciously change them. And to not feel bad if what you're experiencing right now is less than what you want it to be, because most of us we're all creators 100% of the time with our thoughts and feelings. But if you were unaware that your thoughts and feelings created your reality before, and you were living on autopilot and default like most of us, if not all of us, have, then it's not your fault that you've created a life that doesn't thrill you and doesn't make you happy, because you didn't know how the law of attraction worked or how your life actually works. And having that knowledge gives you so much power, because then you're empowered and able to change whatever it is you don't like and change it to something you like better, and change it to the life of your dreams if you want. If you're willing to go there and you're willing to be courageous and bold and go for it and be willing to experience a little bit of discomfort now and then and experience all your emotions fully and not run from them and avoid them, it's amazing what your life can be. So Abraham Hicks is a big name in the law of attraction. He actually wrote it's kind of a long story and it sounds a little woo-woo, but I'll explain it a little bit. Abraham Hicks is actually it's kind of a hard thing to explain. Abraham is a voice that comes through a couple, one of which, Jerry Hicks, has since passed away, but his wife, Esther Hicks, and him basically were able to channel this entity or group of entities that called itself Abraham. I realize that sounds a little crazy and a little woo-woo. However, the wisdom that comes through if you can kind of get past the way it comes through, the wisdom that comes through on the understanding of life and the understanding of law of attraction is truly profound, and I can't underestimate its importance. It really does change how you see life, how you see yourself, that you see yourself as a spiritual being in a human body, a human form. So if all that stuff just freaked you out, don't worry. You can ignore all that. Just listen to some of his wisdom. If you have a chance to go to YouTube and plug in the words Abraham or Abraham Hicks, and there's a whole channel with I honestly don't know how many videos. It's a lot of videos, and it's all basically, a lot of it is Esther Hicks and her speaking. And just listen to her and what she has to say, and you will be blown away by your own ability to change your life for the better. So Abraham Hicks teaches that everything comes to us at the exact right time, and that's what I'm talking about today, perfect timing. There are no accidents. There are no coincidences. Everything, every single thing that you go through in this life has meaning and is a larger part of a learning experience that you're having for a reason. And I realize that that is hard to swallow sometimes. I realize when you're in the midst of something painful that it is hard to understand that it has a purpose. But if you look at there's so many examples out there of people who've been through horrible situations that have come out stronger, and not only stronger, but like are leaders in the world in like success and money and fulfillment and happiness. And, I think of the Oprah Winfreys and the Tony Robbinses and the Maya Angelou's and all the people, the J.K. Rowlings. There are so many people out there that have been through some heavy crap, and excuse my French, heavy shit that they've had to deal with. And yet they have come out the other end of horrible abusive situations and various different things, scary situations, to just succeed so brilliantly and so beautifully. And not to say that any of us want bad or negative experiences. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that any of us should ask for trouble or ask to struggle. Of course, none of us want that. But I'm just saying that some of those folks who have been through stuff like that, it actually made them stronger, and it made them succeed to an even higher level than most of us can imagine. And yet they've done it. And if you look at all the teachers on The Secret, for example, a whole bunch of them, if you watch that movie on Netflix, for example, you can see most of them have a story of, I was homeless, I was bankrupted 3 times, I, was in prison for dealing drugs. So many of them, I was abused as a child by an alcoholic parent or whatever. So many of them have that story. Most of them do. And so it just goes to show you that no matter what has happened to you in your life, you can overcome it and you can succeed. And sometimes it actually makes you succeed even at a higher level than some other folks who don't have that experience. So don't let something that may have happened to you that is a negative thing and maybe have been a painful thing, you can actually use that as an impetus to change your life for an even brighter future than most people can imagine. So I just think that's really inspiring and enlightening. So if we believe that there are no accidents, if we believe there are no coincidences in this world, if this is true, then every event in our lives have a purpose, even if we can't understand in the moment what that purpose might be. And trust me, I know when you're in the midst of something bad or painful, you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. I get that. I have totally been there. And what I'm here to tell you now is hopefully to give you a little glimpse of that light if you're in that place right now, to understand that whatever you're going through, it is there for a purpose. And if you can look at it and do like I said in another previous podcast, distance yourself a little bit, look at it from the watcher as an observer of your own life, and realize that you are actually a spiritual being and that this is happening to you in your human form, but you are not your human form. You are much more important than that. You're much bigger than that. And so if you can distance yourself from that in the moment and realize who you really are, you can get through it, and then you can come out the other side even stronger. And most of the things, all of the things that we would consider or call negative in our life, they're there for something we call contrast, or for basically clarity sake, so that we can understand what our true path actually is. And it's a larger pattern that we may not be able to see at first, but once we can see it, we can use it to live our best and happiest lives possible. And I share this because I guess it was 2 days ago on Sunday. It's November 2017. Today, as I record this, it is the 21st. It's just a couple days before Thanksgiving in 2017 here in the States. And I had a wonderful, wonderful coaching session with reinvention strategist and mentor Betsy Paik. And she was just fabulous. I'm going to share more about that in just a second. But before I do that, I want to mention that she has this wonderful video that I've actually linked in the show notes about how reaching certain milestones in your life. In this video, she talks about being over 40 and how that can help you to see the patterns of your life and how they prepare you for this amazing future that you have. So if you're like me, like I'm 44 right now, I think Betsy is right in there with me in age, and she talks about how being a little bit older gives you some perspective so that you can look back and see more of the pattern in your life, because it's so much easier to go forward and make decisions if you know that it's all adding up to something. If you know that it is all for a reason, and that reason is amazing and wonderful and is going to make you so happy and fulfilled. It makes everything worth it, basically. So Betsy is a wonderful coach, and now I'll talk about the session we had. So first of all, if you've never actually spoken to a professional coach, I highly recommend you do that. There's most coaches out there have like a free mini session that you can just talk to them about. A lot of them will offer free sessions as a part of, like a little session to help you in different ways. So if you've never actually gotten the opportunity to talk to someone and you don't have the money for that, you don't think you can afford that, don't let that stop you from checking out some of these coaches, because even the mini session can help you to get some clarity and some perspective. And like I'm a very emotional person personally, and I know I get upset sometimes at things going on in my life, and I'll get all weepy and upset and overwhelmed by things. And having another person who's in a slightly different place than you're in, usually that if they're a coach, most of them have already come out the other side of understanding how life works and how to succeed and how to reach those goals that you want. Most of them have reached them already. So if you go to one of these coaches, or you call them up, or you email them, or whatever, you schedule an appointment, a mini session, then it'll give you the opportunity to get some perspective. Because when you're in the midst of it, when you're down mired in the mud, basically, sometimes you cannot see the forest for the trees. No matter what, you're just too in it. And not everybody can become the observer and become the watcher. Sometimes you got to learn how to do that. Some people can't automatically do that. So if you are in that position, check out some of the coaches, Google Life coaches, check them out, see if they have recommendations, or if they have people who have given testimonials about how much they've helped them. See if one of them will match you and get some help. Even if it's just a one-time mini session, even that can help you in a wonderful way. And most coaches have blogs and or podcasts and or YouTube videos or Facebook groups, or, there's lots of free stuff most coaches have. So if you're in a position where you're like, look, I don't have the money, Jeannie, to do this kind of thing, most of us have something for you, and most of us have lots of information that's just free and can help you. So check that out, look for that, and get the help that you need. Don't hesitate to do that. So coaches like Betsy Paik are uniquely experienced in helping those who are in some sort of transition, not just get through the transition, but to fly through it and to get through it with much greater ease. So it's basically she will offer guidance. For example, for me, on my coaching session Sunday, it was all about getting support, advice, and confirmation that I'm on the right track, because I'm definitely in the middle of a transition right now. And I was so honored and humbled that she took time for me on a Sunday evening before Thanksgiving. I mean, everybody's busy right now. It's crazy. If you go to a grocery store, you try and drive in a high populated area, you can't get around. Everybody's out and about trying to get their pumpkin pie filling and their cranberry sauce and their turkeys and their hams and all the stuff that they're buying, and get ready for the holiday. So it was so humbling for me that she took the time out of her schedule to speak to me for an hour and offer me a fresh perspective. And since I'm a burgeoning entrepreneur, we spoke about some business and marketing strategies, but we also talked about my dreams and my goals and my overall mindset. And so I'd love for you to check out, I've also got this linked in the show notes. I did a Facebook Live video at Betsy's behest. She encouraged me to get on Facebook Live. I've done a couple of those very, very brief little videos. I was a little shy and worried about how I looked or whatever. I kind of just got over that. I did an 8-minute video today on my lunch hour, actually. And it's very specific on how to overcome writer's block. So for my authors and writers out there who have struggled with writer's block or are struggling right now with writer's block, please, it's just 8 minutes long. Check out that little Facebook Live video. And I've got some easy little tips for how you can overcome that. So check that out. So basically, meeting with Betsy was everything I would have hoped for and more. And Betsy, if you ever listen to this, thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping me. It was so wonderful, and I just can't thank you enough. I really can't. So working with the coach is extraordinary because it's a one-on-one kind of intimate experience, and most coaches offer anything. Like Betsy and I asked to just speak to her on the phone, but she also offered a video live option to me. A lot of folks have, they have different programs that you can speak to someone and see video, or you can just, some coaches just do emails if you even want to do that. So lots of different ways. If you're more comfortable writing your problems back and forth in an email, like you like to text or whatever, there's lots of different options, and coaches are open to that. So don't think that you have to be face to face and travel across the country and go lots of miles out of your way to meet with a coach, because you can meet with a coach very easily without any travel at all. It was an incredible, incredible blessing to talk to her. And the amazing thing is, like, friends, they can give you advice, and they usually do. And like, if you go to a professional counselor, for example, they'll guide you through difficulties. But being with a coach and being coached is like having both of those in one person. It's just really, really incredible and really amazing. So I definitely advise you to do that. And one thing Betsy helped me to see when I was talking to her was that the universe has perfect timing. Everything that has happened to me in my life was preparing me and setting me up for this magnificent transition I'm going through right now. So, and is it scary? Yes. Have I had moments where I break down into tears? Yes. Do I get fearful that I'll never get out of this day job that I don't enjoy very much, and then I'll be sitting there and just stuck in this job and crazy hours and all the things that I don't enjoy instead of what I do enjoy? Have I had that fear and that doubt? Absolutely. I'm a human being, And we all have doubts and fears. And that's what our mind does, is it brings that up because it's always trying to warn us that we're, be careful. Oh, stay safe. Oh, do what's comfortable. Oh, do what you know. You already know this job, even though you hate it. Let's stay here. All right, mind, shut up, right? You're not helping. So, yes, that is why those doubts come up, and that is why those fears plague us so much. But I've had lots of wonderful times in my life, and along with the not so wonderful times. But the not so wonderful times offer me contrast and clarity, like I talked about before. And now that I can look back at it and I can kind of narrow down precisely what I want out of my life, I've been able to make a specific plan for how to achieve it. So like for me, like I was a nerdy kid, as I've mentioned before, and I cared about my grades. I was an honors kid. And so I was an honors kid and a gifted and talented kid. And then in high school, and then I went on to be an honors kid in college, which is a wholly different ballgame, by the way. I did graduate with honors with a teaching degree. And so I thought my life was set up. And then I found out that I wasn't going to get to teach because I couldn't find a job in the field. I couldn't get in any of the schools anywhere near me, like within an hour or two. I couldn't find any jobs. And so, yeah, my first job after I got my degree, by the way, was scrubbing toilets at a Super 8 motel. So yeah, and I think I've mentioned that on a podcast before. So I definitely learned humility at 21 when I graduated. So I wasn't able to teach until 11 years later, and I remember being very resentful of having the student loans that I'm paying on and didn't even have the job that I had gotten the education for. So I have been there. I understand feeling resentful and feeling bitter about something because you don't see the grand scheme of things. You don't see the big picture when you're stuck in it at the time. But looking back, I can see that now. And I grew up in an entrepreneurial household, but that business didn't succeed financially, and so I had baggage around that too. I've been a teacher, a trainer, an insurance agent, and a manager. I'm an author, both traditionally and self-published, of both fiction and nonfiction. I'm a podcaster, blogger, and coach. So I've had a variety of experiences now at 44. And up until recently, I didn't see that all of that wasn't just haphazard nonsense, right? I thought I was going around in circles. I didn't see what life was preparing me for. I didn't see what God was preparing me for. I didn't see what the universe was preparing me for. But now I see it, and I see it so clearly now. So whenever I was a teacher and I read to my students and I talked in front of a classroom for 5 years, I now know that was for now. That was so I can now comfortably share podcasts. I can do Facebook Live videos without completely freaking out. I can speak in public arenas comfortably. All because of that experience as being a teacher. I learned how to manage and be a manager in the corporate world so I could come home and manage my own business that I'm building now. I learned how to podcast and do videos and coach so I can help writers who are struggling to rediscover their creativity and reignite that inspiration in a blaze of glory for them. For you, there is no accident. There is no coincidences. God and the universe have been preparing me for this moment in my life for decades now. Perfect timing. Everything I've needed to learn, I've been learning, and I continue to learn. And at 44, I know enough to know that there's so much that I don't know. Ironic, isn't it? And yet I know quite a bit. I know what it's like to want to write, but to feel too stressed or exhausted to even consider sitting down in front of that laptop. I know what it's like to have time to sit down and write, and then have absolutely no idea what I'm going to write about. I know what it's like to have inspiration flow through me so fast that I can't keep up with it. And I know what it's like to have inspiration avoid me like the plague. I know what it's like to be very overweight, obese, and survive what's difficult in my life by scarfing down massive amounts of food to avoid it instead. I know what it's like to sit in a doctor's office, frustrated out of my mind because I'm working a job I can't stand, and to be told I'm obese and now have type 2 diabetes. I know. I also know how to reverse all of those negative aspects in my life. I know how to change them from painful struggles and into hard-won triumphs. I know because I've done it. And I know because I'm doing it now. So if you're like me, over 40 and in transition, then let me give one small piece of advice to you. Use all of that life experience that you have and use the clarity that you've been given to look back and see what you've learned. See what you're being led toward. You have the opportunity to live the life of your wildest dreams if you want to. And as a woman who is on the verge of realizing some of my biggest dreams right now, I'll tell you, you can do it. So if you're interested in living life on your own terms, keep listening to this podcast. Listen to Betsy Pake's podcast too. Or you can check me out on Facebook at my Writing in Your Jammies new page that I just started. Or you can find me on Twitter or Instagram. I've got the links in the show notes. Or you can go to writinginyourjammies.com/coaching and set up a free mini session with me. But whatever you decide to do, know that you are worth it, that you are so valuable. You are absolutely precious to this world, to this universe. Know that everything is coming to you in perfect timing. Keep being unique, beautiful, authentic, and a super badass, because you are. And thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day, week, month, and year, guys. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. Go to writinginyourjammies.com to sign up for my brand new Rejuvenation for Writers 6-week comprehensive program to help writers reignite their creative sparks. You're just a free mini session away from becoming the amazing author you've always wanted to become. You really can be whoever you want to be. Thanks again.